A powerful mixed voice feels like the holy grail of singing. It's the thing we're all trying to reach, but it seems so hard to get to. But today I want to encourage you that you can have a powerful mixed voice. You can learn to do it. And I want to share the secret that I learned that really led to a lot of breakthrough in my singing. That's coming up now. Hi, my name's Caleb. I'm an Australian singer-songwriter. If you're new to the channel, I'd encourage you to subscribe if you end up enjoying this video so you can see more of my content. And today I wanted to share with you the secret that really led to breakthrough in my singing, and it's what I call the crossover. This is the big secret, how to navigate the crossover in the voice in a way that's going to lead to your singing being completely transformed. I spent many years doing the crossover of the voice wrong. I spent a lot of years trying to sing in a mixed voice just with the wrong angle. I'd had vocal training, I'd done online kind of singing workshops, and they helped to a degree, but I just kept messing this thing up. No matter what happened, when I'd approach this spot in my voice, I could sing in chest voice and I could sing in head voice and in a kind of powerful mixy head voice sound, but there was just this gap and this difficult section I had in my voice. That section now is one of my favorite parts of my voice, and I struggled for years with it. Today, I'm gonna talk about what the crossover is, how to get it right for you in terms of your thinking, how do I approach that crossover, and then what are 3 tips to work on in order to nail it. So firstly, what do I mean by the crossover? Well, you see, a mixed voice is essentially talking about the mix of your chest voice and your head voice, that area of the voice where you're blending different tonal qualities and you're blending different techniques within your throat, vocal tract, resonances in order to have one continuous sound. So how you navigate that is everything. There's 2 main categories of mix. There's head dominant mix and there's chest dominant mix, right? In the lower part of your voice, obviously, you're gonna be in chest voice, then you're gonna be in a chest dominant mix. You're starting to mix your sound, you're starting to approach your sound in a different way, but the feeling within your vocal cords is still that of a chest voice feeling. Then you've got a head dominant mix, which is where now the onset of your vocal cords is more like a head voice, but the tonal qualities and the sensations are still matching that of your chest dominant mix. There's a point where your vocal cords go from stretching, which is like chest voice, to zipping, like head voice. That is what you need to get right. You need to know where that approach needs to take place, how it needs to take place, and then where it needs to take place. And I didn't realize there's actually a way to approach your chest voice singing that you can extend your chest voice a little bit further and narrow it, and then it will start to blend with the qualities of your head voice much better when you just take it that little bit further. There's a safe way to do that, and that is one of the biggest secrets that I want to share. 3 tips of how do you approach that narrowing, how do you build it, and then how do you get that transition so it's powerful and it's perfect. So the first thing is narrowing the chest voice. So we need to extend the chest voice a little bit further than what you think you can do. You need to go further than what you think is possible. Just a little bit, just maybe a tone or 2 further. So how do I do this? How can I get higher than I can physically get even when I'm shouting? Well, here's the trick. I'm going to get my guitar. The trick is you need to think narrow and smaller as you get higher, but keep the energy. You need to not blast out your air. You need to not tense here, and as you get up higher, start going. You need to do the opposite. We need to be thinking like this, that as we go higher, we're getting smaller, we're getting narrower. The sound might get bigger. That's fine. It might sound more energized out there, but it's got to feel smaller in your vocal cords. You're not pulling this all up, right? So what I mean by that is if I'm singing, right? From a guy who couldn't hit an A without yelling to just repetitively, like I could do that for even longer. I'm just kind of highlighting that I can navigate those notes in a chest voice, but it feels narrow. Now, you might hear opera singers when they hit those big notes. They sound like they're yelling and it sounds operatic, but I guarantee you, and I can tell you for a fact, is that they've actually learnt to narrow that chest voice. Now, how do you do that? Well, there's different ways to approach it, but one of the main ways is through vowel modification. Now, this whole idea of vowel modification used to just mess with my head because I thought that I had to learn to re-sing very specific vowels in very specific parts of my voice every time I sung. So I thought I'd need to start, as I was singing and performing, needing to say words abnormally and memorize the vowels and the spots of the voice. That's not what vowel modification is, and it's not what you need to learn. That might help. I'm not saying don't do that, but if you're singing pop or rock or anything, learning some vowel modifications is really about getting the feel for how you can actually get a narrower, smaller sound in a particular part of the voice. So learning specific vowels is really just about learning to get a feel. Once you've got the resonance, you've got the feel, you've got how it's supposed to feel, then you don't need to keep thinking about the vowel modification in and of itself. But the principle still will apply. So when I'm singing A's, I'm thinking narrow, I'm thinking small, I'm not blasting out breath, I'm not yelling. Even though it might sound more energized out there, it doesn't feel more energized in here. I'm not going to go through all kinds of vowel modification techniques in this video because that would take a long time. Maybe I'll do some of those videos in the future. Let me know if you would like that. But there are some great videos already out there on YouTube. Just make sure you do research into who the person is. So, learn to narrow your chest voice and take it past what you think you can do. Second one is learn a powerful head voice. Now, in order to do this, the first thing you'll be wanting to learn is how to get some compression into your vocal cords, how to get proper vocal adduction as well. In other words, your vocal cords coming together really cleanly as they're zipping together. You see, that's what happens in your head voice. Your vocal cords start zipping. So you've got to learn to do that where the vocal cords aren't blasting apart like in falsetto, but they're zipping better. Now, 2 exercises to help you do this. The first one really helps with vocal cord adduction and stops all that breathiness, and it's called the creaky door. I've talked about it before. You essentially just sound like a creaky door. You go like this. Okay? Now, the point in this is just to get a head voicey adduction without the extra breath, and the little bits of creaks and vocal fry beforehand just helps your vocal cords to start in this position. So, make sure that you contain the air so you're not pushing air through, that you're holding your air back as you do it so you don't kind of hurt yourself at all. The second exercise, and I've talked about this one before, it's called the Nene exercise. This one's great because it is supposed to sound nasty. It will sound nasty, but it will help you out a lot. And what that's going to do is start to develop that power and ring. You essentially want to have a really ugly sound. Pick a spot in your voice that is fairly high, that's at least a few tones above where you think your crossover should be, right? So if at the moment you can't get past like an A4 in chest voice, then maybe once you learn to narrow, you'll be up more around the B. So then you would choose like around the D to do this exercise, right? You want to be in a location where you will definitely be in a head dominant mix. You don't want to be doing this lower than you should because then it's actually going to work against you, right? So for me, I'm going to pick a D because by then I should be in a head dominant mix. And I can just say na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. In 2 different ways. Na na na. A little bit more stuffy, falsetto-y and covered. And then na 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 na. Alternating between na 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 and nay 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 nay. The na will have a little bit more of a darker tone, and the nay will bring out that kind of that masky, sharp, pharyngeal as well, resonance, right? Sound ugly. Almost use like a witch's cackle. Make sure you're not pushing here. Your larynx might come up a little bit, but you don't want to be forcing it up like a reinforced falsetto, right? So, see how I can move my neck around? That's because I'm not forcing my larynx shut. And my larynx is actually in quite a neutral position. It's not up, it's not down, it's just in kind of in between. So once you've learnt to narrow your chest voice, in other words, you can go past where you could before. You can sail into waters where you can have that narrow, relaxed, but energized chest voice beyond where you thought was possible. And you've learnt to kind of get that sharp ring. Then what it is all about then is about knowing where to mix your voice. Now, this is actually going to change from song to song a little bit. It's going to change based on the style and the approach. But what I would encourage you in is have a set point where you will determine where you will not enter a head dominant mix in. What I mean by that is, for me, I will not enter a head dominant mix below a B flat ever. And usually it's more around the C. What I mean by that is I will never sing an A in a head dominant mix tone. I can. So if I sing A, that is, I suppose it's a head dominant mix, but the thing is, it's below where I should be adducting my vocal cords in that way. So it's gonna be like a weird roadmap, because if I'm singing there, and then I try to sing lower, see, my voice gets caught. It's because I shouldn't be that low in a head dominant mix. I should be in a head dominant mix up here, not down here. You need to figure out where your point is. For me, I thought that I should be in a head dominant mix by an A because I couldn't hit an A in a chest voice. This is why it's really important. Learn to narrow those vowels. Learn to extend that chest voice first, okay? So, my encouragement is if you're a baritone, you should be up around the B to C before you're in any kind of head dominant position, and maybe even beyond. If you're a tenor, probably the earliest is around, maybe a C sharp, D sharp. If you're a bass, maybe around the A, but even then I'd be trying to extend it a little bit past that. You see, if you're mixing too early, you're actually at a higher risk of vocal damage. Might sound counterintuitive, but your chest voice actually has a bit more robustness to it. It can weather the storm a bit more, but that head voice onset can't. So if you're doing it too early, you're actually going to be hurting your voice over time. This is really true over a lot of the power metal singers of the 80s and 90s and the progressive metal singers of the 80s and 90s. I don't want to pick on anyone, so I won't name names, but some of my favorite singers, unfortunately, just mixed a little bit too early and blew out their voices. So, encouragement. You might think that extending and narrowing your chest voice is a higher risk, but it's actually lower risk, right? If you do it correctly and you're not tensing. So, I know that I'm never singing an A4 personally in a head mix. Again, I just wanted to reinforce that I'm talking about singing powerfully. Obviously, I might sing an A4 in falsetto or a head voice for effect. That's completely fine. But if I'm thinking full voice power, then A4, never in a head dominant position. Okay? So B flat, I'll only occasionally do that in a head dominant position if the later notes in the approach just makes it smoother to do so. But generally, I'm still thinking chest dominant. B is really where it can go either way. Again, it depends on the approach. In a song I did, about 9 months ago where I sung SOS, I hit a big B. There's this line, all of my time on the earth. Chest dominant mix with vibrato. But then recently I did a cover of Into the Unknown, and on the B flats, I was in a chest dominant position, but on the Bs, I was in a head dominant position. And that's because the next note jumped up to an E flat, and that needed to be a mix. And because I wanted it to sound smooth, I just shifted up a bit there. Why am I saying all this? Well, because really, you want to strengthen your voice enough to know that you can play with it a little bit, okay? That's the first thing. The second thing is if you've narrowed it to that degree, then actually the difference between the chest voice tone and the head voice tone is very minimal. And because the space is smaller, and your larynx is shifting and it's starting to tilt, the transition is very minor, right? If I'm singing a G sharp 4 in chest, oh, and I'm going to use a wide sound just to demonstrate a bad example, right? Ah, and then I try to go to a head dominant mix on the A. Ah, ah. It's a huge difference in tone. But if I'm up here on the B and I hit it in like a chest dominant tone, oh, then I can do C. Oh, the tone was quite similar, even though one was chest dominant, one was head dominant. That's an example where if you learn to narrow and shift at the right moment, much more helpful. Now, I can actually narrow my chest voice beyond that to a C sharp or a D if I really have to, but I generally don't. But there's more play when you strengthen and learn to narrow your chest voice. The final thing I would say for a powerful mix is, even though you want to keep it a little bit more contained and narrow when you're as you're navigating your upper chest voice, once you get on the other side of a mix, let's say up around the D, and particularly once you get up to the E, opening your mouth more and getting a little bit wider is going to help you get more of that chest resonance into your head dominant position. What do I mean by that? If I'm singing a D, let's say E, just because it's a bit smaller there, an E, and I go, ah! That was quite a small collapsed onset, very almost basically a reinforced falsetto, right? So in order to make sure that I keep the energy there, I should actually open up a little bit. So, ah! 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 See how that had more of that kind of resonance, much more closer to my chest voice in terms of the tone. So I'm going to give you an example of sliding up to a high note, keeping it big, opening up at the right moment, not too early, not as I'm navigating my chest voice. I narrow as I get through my chest voice into my head voice, and then I can open up wider again right on the top of my voice to add some more beef. So I can go like this. Right? That's just a bit of an example. Narrow, 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 chest voice, take it further than I think it can go, then go into head dominant, and then open back up. That is going to be the maximum way to get a powerful mixed voice. Obviously, there's all kinds of things you need to learn, relaxation of your neck muscles, your extrinsic muscles, proper breath support so you're not blasting out air, but you're just containing it. There's all kinds of things that that connect on to what I've talked about. But the main thing, getting the crossover right. Where do I need to learn to extend my chest voice to? How do I narrow? How do I transition? It's all about the crossover. That is the secret to a powerful mixed voice. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to subscribe if you did. Let me know in the comments what you're struggling with and how I can help. And I look forward to seeing you all in the next video. Thanks, guys.